Welcome to Grow with Purpose in 2021. I'm so excited to get started today. Our speaker is just restarting his computer, but I'll get us started right now anyway. Just to give you a quick introduction to the session. In this event, we are exploring the opportunities that come with sustainability in terms of tapping into the market demand that has been growing and growing over 2020 and into 2021. Looking at the consumer demand for ethical and sustainable products and the amount of interest in this space and increasing financing, employee interest, and stakeholder demand for sustainability. So today we're focusing mostly on the why. So we're hearing about that consumer demand and hearing about corporate businesses and why they're so focused in this space, why financing is so focused in sustainability and environmental and social issues as well. So just some quick logistics. I just want to point out that each session will be starting on the hour and we'll go for about 45 minutes. The next session will then start at the next hour. So you're welcome to leave the Zoom room and rejoin with the same link on the next hour. Please keep yourself on mute just to reduce the amount of background noise and distraction. But I welcome you to please keep your cameras on just so we can see the beautiful people that we're speaking to. And ask questions by typing in the chat box. So you should see that at the bottom of your screen. At the end of this session, I will go through the questions that have been entered in there and pick a couple to ask to the speaker at the end of the session after we've gone through our own questions and discussion. And please do join the Facebook group where you'll have more opportunity to ask questions of the other participants. So the speakers won't necessarily be in the Facebook group, but I'll be able to answer questions and you'll be able to crowdsource answers from other people in the group, which I think this is a fantastic community to be able to do that. So now that Pete is back on, I am going to ask him to become a host. And now, Pete, are you there?
Hey, Sarah, can you hear me? And hey, everyone.
Perfect. Awesome. So Pete Yao joined Thankyou in 2012 and is now the Chief Impact Officer and Director of the Thankyou Charitable Trust. Pete makes sure that funding raised through Thankyou's products is directed to the right projects, i.e. Identifying impactful change makers who are creating systemic and sustainable outcomes for vulnerable and low-income communities around the world. He also looks at the holistic impact of Thankyou's own business, including establishing responsible business goals for the business and working with the team to minimize the negative impacts of operating in the fast-moving consumable goods industry. So I'm going to ask Pete a series of questions basically today. That's how the format's going to work. So Pete, can you just let us know, for anyone who isn't familiar with Thankyou, what was the motivation behind Thankyou's founding and how does the model work?
Great. Hey, thanks, Sarah. And firstly, just thank you on behalf of everyone at Thankyou on the opportunity to speak and present for the next few moments. And yeah, good day to everyone that's also watching post this event as well. And good day to everyone here in the room that's live. I think for us at Thankyou, we started off with actually not wanting to become a business. We had this initial thought of just going, gosh, we were millennials, 18-year-olds just out of high school, and we had a bad rap. I was talking about the generation. We had a bad rap of, waving our hands around and demanding social change without actually getting our hands stuck into the work. So for us, we were deeply moved by extreme poverty. And at the moment, 736 million people live on less than $1.90 a day. For us, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. we knew there were great partners doing amazing work. We didn't want to implement projects because we weren't local, we didn't understand the issues. So we thought, hey, what's actually within our hands? And it was this thinking and this thought of going, there's a lot of money within the FMCG, fast moving consumer good industry, that's going and lining the shares of just your top 1%, I would say, of the world. What happens if we create a redistribution model that actually funds these amazing, impactful change makers, tackling people living $1.90 a day and the systemic issues they raise, and using and creating a vehicle almost to transfer that wealth into this place. And so there was born the Thankyou idea. We're currently within Australia and New Zealand. We are the 4th largest personal care brand in Australia at the moment. And we can talk a bit more about where we're at commercially. But yeah, just to explain a bit about our business, we're owned 100% by the Thankyou Charitable Trust, which means we have no other shareholders. And every quarter, just like a normal business would, we would post all of profits and distribute the dividends into our charitable trust. So that's our unique business model, and we can dive into a bit more about sort of what we do with our profits and dividends, also how business is run a bit later on. But I'll pause there.
Cool, perfect. Thanks, Pete. You say that you're the 4th largest skincare company in Australia, which is absolutely amazing for what is still just barely into a medium-sized business, just beyond a small business now. And I see a bottle of Thankyou hand wash in every inner city bar or restaurant these days. So would you say that that social mission and purpose has been key to Thankyou's success?
Yeah, and it's an interesting question as well. What is Thankyou's success? So going back to the foundation of it, we would say it's actually getting money into the hands of people serving vulnerable and low-income communities. So for us, just having a business model like this is definitely success, because we've been able to raise and give over $17 million away over the last 12 years of operation. And then from a commercial perspective as well, we definitely don't see as this is our success story just yet. There's a lot of work to do, but I think during the journey, as per a lot of these, like anyone that's started a business or has a business that they're leading at the moment would know this, we never feel like we've actually got to the place that we wanted to get to just for the moment. But celebrating the victories, that's been one of the big things that we keep having to remind ourselves. So we are the 4th largest personal care brand. We contribute, I think, in the last 2 years, the #1 dollar growth within that personal care industry in grocery, which is really, really great. And I think a couple more stats on where we're at. Something we actually got told is this stat called solace, and we're like, what is that? And a solace is actually the percentage of consumers that don't buy any other product, and we are the highest solace shopper. We have the highest solace shopper in all personal care, and that's at the moment 24% of shoppers that don't buy any other hand wash, which beats a lot of the competitors as well. And we have the highest loyalty rates. And I share this because back to your question, we do not think we'll be able to get those solace rates, those loyalty rates, without consumer buy-in and consumer engagement with what we do. And like a lot of people can make really great product. We try and do that every single day. A lot of people can kind of match the price point that consumers want and engage with, but ultimately for us, the solace rates, the loyalty rates can only come up because consumers really buy into sort of the vision, the ethos, the values of a company. And so we definitely think that this commercial journey that we're on and success in part is because of our social mission and values.
Amazing. And you also mentioned that you recently won a significant contract with the Victorian government, was it?
No, it was actually one of the governments. I would say that wasn't Victoria. I'll keep it sort of a bit, a bit more,
Do you think that was linked with your social mission as well, or just the fact that you were delivering a good product?
Yeah, I think there's variety of reasons, but we would say that during the tendering process, our brand was stacked up with price, quality, availability. And when it came down to choosing between a selection of 3, 4, 5 different other organizations for this contract, they really deeply resonated with their social procurement policy, which actually feeds into what we stand for, what our values are, and how we operate as a business, which we assume when we won that contract, that is the final, almost deciding hurdle that separated us from the rest. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. And just a quick clarification question that I've got here. Was it 7 million or 70 million into the hands of partners?
17 actually, so right in between. So 7, 17, 70, we're 17 at the moment.
There you go. Fabulous. Yeah. Awesome. Now, Thankyou has come a long way since it started with just bottled water in plastic bottles. Can you talk about how the approach to managing your environmental and social impact has evolved over the years since then?
Yeah, totally. I think when we were sort of starting off and we didn't know a lot about businesses, as sort of I alluded to, we were all very values led. And so one of the things that really steered every single decision was we have 8 core values that are, we hope, distinct to our brand and who we are and the way that we operate, therefore. So at the beginning, it was a lot of ad hoc decisions with a lot of different managers and leaders in the business, making decisions on behalf of, we call it our responsible business goals. I think the last few years, we've really tried to systemize it. And some of the outcomes, like you mentioned, was looking at some of the product ranges and going, like, we actually can't understand and know it all. So how do we involve firstly partners to come in and look at sort of these heat risk maps, like what is our greatest contributors to carbon, waste, water, and then how do we then take actionable steps as a business, not just silo it off into different departments, to actually have a responsible business strategy, responsible goals, to then therefore establish a framework of decisions where a lot of our leaders, managers, really clear on, hey, here's the roadmap, here's where we're going, and here's how we should actually lead our individual departments and teams in a clear, concise manner to dictate, hey, this is where we should go to, or this is where we shouldn't. And yeah, case study would be bottled water. We started off as the first product. We thought it was incredibly stupid that Australia had a $600 million bottled water industry. And yeah, for us, it was just like, we have, tap water at a very low cost here. So why is there an industry? So let's do the Robin Hood thing. Let's kind of take the money from that industry, and at least if it's going to exist, let's actually just redistribute that to fund water projects. But yeah, I think as we matured and grown, and as we sort of set these targets, we just looked at a lot of the research around biodegradability. How do we make the most efficient bottle, or the most, we would say, the bottle that didn't contribute to landfill, single-use plastic being such an issue that it is. We couldn't find any great alternative for us personally. So we made the step a couple of years ago to actually exit the bottled water industry. And it wasn't because of commercials, it was purely because of our responsible business goals. And we were really thankful as well that we had expanded to other categories. I just wanted to pull that out there, that we had other categories that were growing. So it wasn't like we didn't shoot ourselves, I would say, in the foot with the commercial timing. But yeah, we actually felt it was really important to really adhere to these standards, goals, and strategy that we had committed to. And if it had to be a tough decision that we had to make, then we had to do it. And that's the beauty of standardizing and centralizing a lot of these goals.
Yeah, and I think in the early on, there was kind of a laundry list, I guess, of things that you knew that you needed to address in the business. The deeper you got into the business, the more you realized, oh gosh, there's, we're trying to create good on one end, i.e. the downstream, but let's start looking at where our products are coming from, who the suppliers are, where the resources are coming from. So can you touch a little bit on how you tackled that, because that can be a little bit overwhelming for a lot of businesses?
Yeah, we're still, I think I was talking to Sarah last week, and we still feel like we're a very small business. So we have around 30 employees for the last, 12 years. And I think the first 3-4 years, none of us took wages, so we sort of all work part-time, full-time around this idea and business. And it was already really tough, as you alluded to, in making money and just trying to get a product out there that was picked up, let alone tackle some of the most serious issues that humanity's faced, from like carbon emissions to looking at responsible sourcing, and so like you pointed out early on, we make really great decisions, and also decisions that we could have made better and could have made faster. We have this saying though, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection, and so our journey has been, okay, how do we get to some of the causes, or how do we actually learn and visibly like scope out some of these issues that we, as once again 18, 19, 20-year-olds didn't understand fully. And our probably key learning that we had was we can't do everything on our own. So we involve partners, we involve environmental consultants, we involve people that really knew what they were talking about. And we also didn't want to tackle every issue and go into that depth. Like at the start, we wanted to be really focused, and we wanted to use the limited resource that we had and go, okay, what's the biggest bang for buck, so to speak, or what's the most impactful change that we can make? And so, really having a great scope was foundational to making decisions on what is most material, what is our highest risk, and then therefore finding partners and setting projects and setting up teams to actually tackle them and setting a timeline. It all sounds very intuitive, but I think we all understand it's really surprising when we're all stretched. Our teams are just 100% focused on commercial, that simple intuitive steps like this can actually fall outside of our day-to-day. And so, that visibility, involving partners, and then setting really great targets, goals, enshrining that within each business operation. I would say that's our biggest learning there. And we're not there yet, definitely, but anyone that's interested can look at thankyou.co/sustainability, or if you just go to our website, thankyou.co or thankyou.co, you can find out and see all of our different resources, all our different goals, and our different progress as well.
Yeah, brilliant. One more clarification question here from David.
Yep.
Is your product Australian made? I know much of it is.
Yeah, our personal care range is, we have a couple of different other product categories in baby, as well as we're in book as well, that's made overseas, but our predominant flagship product, our personal care range is.
Brilliant. Okay, I will have a couple more questions for you, but also just just reminding the audience to enter any bigger questions. So like any clarification questions I'm asking as we go.
Yeah.
But please have a think about any bigger questions that you would like to ask Pete that I can throw in at the end. But first I want to ask, I know you recently changed your approach to funding projects, i.e. the impact side of the business. So what can other small businesses who want to contribute donations, that's often kind of a first big approach is, we give 10% of our profits to charity or something like that. How can other small businesses learn from your approach to giving thoughtfully?
Yeah, I think firstly, there's no one size fits all way to give, but a couple of principles and learning journeys on the way that be more than happy to even unpack at a later date in case anyone wants to. We've got a bunch of sort of thinking and resources on our website as well that you can geek out and deep dive into it. I'm personally someone that loves geeking out of things, so excuse the brevity of this next response, but I'll touch on some of the key lessons that we've learned in being a philanthropic giver, especially a corporate one. First things first, I think for us, it was just listening. And I like wrote in my notes, like listen. And what that means and what that looks like is we're in it for one reason, and that's looking at serving vulnerable and low-income communities with the best long-lasting solutions. Sometimes I think for us, we've seen in sort of the philanthropic giving world that it's a bit of that, but it's a bit of, hey, let's make sure that our brand is promoted or leveraged. And for us, the way to counteract that is looking at just listening to our partners, listening to our other funders or other businesses who have maybe done their homework in the past, as well as listen to the needs of the community to therefore craft their strategy. I think maybe being really motivated and moved by seeing a lot of need and injustice, we can immediately go, gosh, we need to act, and sometimes we miss actually what will actually make a difference. What are the systems that need to be changed, or what's the root causes? What are things that no one is funding that should be funded? And I think an excellent case study is, at the moment, we fund water projects and sanitation projects around the world, but at the moment in rural sub-Saharan Africa, 40% of all hand pumps, so wells, are broken at any given time. That is a shocking stat, and it's nothing that is oh my gosh, like, why is this happening? It's all been well documented. It's because funders don't like funding things that are outside the tangible, things that don't look like a well. Funders don't really like funding capacity building activities. How do you strengthen up water municipal authorities? How do you strengthen up tariff systems? How do you strengthen up collection of water user fees as well that we pay in Australia as well? And ultimately, charities charities can't keep sustaining itself. So what's the scalable solution, and what's the root causes behind it? So when we started listening, instead of just funding more hardware, more taps, more things that look really tangible, we go, okay, what's the root causes to make sure that 40% actually goes down to zero? And so that's one of the first key learnings. And just a couple quick ones as well. Look for partners. Don't try and do it all on your own. Partners are local, they're trustworthy, and ultimately, actually, the hardest thing about looking at tackling injustice and poverty isn't actually building more things, is actually behavior change. That's the hardest thing, and so that comes with people who are trustworthy, who have great reputation within community, who can then lead these programs and lead these great outcomes. Another thing is with partners, look for partners who are really serious about measurement. A lot of partners really talk a good game about just looking at how many activities they've run, or how many things they've built. But look for partners who are really serious about capturing, we call it impact or outcomes, which is, at the end of the day, what did these activities actually accomplish? And for us, we look at a whole bunch of things like reducing maternal deaths, or reducing neonatal deaths, or looking at increasing someone's income, or increasing the livelihoods and production. So look at that sort of outcome versus the activities. And then probably lastly for us, it's a big one, and you can read all about it on our website as well, but set our partners up to win. Make sure that we're funding things that they really need, not things that we find really understandable. So they could need research, they could need a lot of things that aren't glamorous, but they're the experts. And so when you find these great partners, trust them and fund them in a way that really elevates them and amplifies the impact.
Amazing. So I guess the sort of lessons perhaps for a small business who isn't necessarily getting down and dirty out there in the field, but just looking for a great charity to support, it sounds like two of the key things are partners who are, or charities who are serious about measuring their impact and outcomes, and those who are talking about behavior change and capacity building, as well as just the number of wells built or something like that.
Yeah, and undoubtedly, there will also be local partners, people that know the communities, that can actually find out the root causes, and therefore, administer the right types of solutions as well. This is all very brief. Apologies if this opens up a lot more discussion points as well. But yeah, all of our thinking once again is on our website.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually leads into my next question, because I think that Thankyou has always been radically transparent, I guess, especially for a small business. The amount of information that you do share on your website, certainly originally there was the Track Your Impact platform where you could actually see the individual projects happening overseas. you've moved away from that for good reason, because that was kind of getting in the way of actually creating the impact. But also you've got the impact reporting, and you do measure your own impact in the same way that you were just saying with local partners. But also in your annual letter, which I think that you really stand out to me in terms of how almost vulnerable the annual letter can be, in terms of being very brutally honest about what has not been working at Thankyou and the lessons that you've learned each year and what you're going to focus on to improve the next year. So what would you say to other small businesses, which are very frequently, from ones that I've spoken to and large corporates as well, actually, afraid of being too open, especially when they feel, oh, but we're not perfect yet. We can't talk about these things until we're perfect.
Yeah, I think it's funny that we started as really young people that didn't really know about what the right risk appetite should be for running a business. Like I think there's some things that as a result we've really over-indexed with, and there's other silly mistakes that we have to learn from, right? But I think one thing that we're really proud of is being really true to our values and really true to who we are. And one of the expressions of that is actually communication in an authentic manner. And one of the key things I think when we're starting out, and even today, is that maybe this resonates with everyone in the room, but it's this sense of like, when everyone in your friends and family relationships on immediate social circle come to a barbecue or sort of some social event, they're always asking like, okay, how's things going? And for us, as a human representing our organization, if we were to lead off with the most PRable things, the highlights and the glamour and the glitz, and then throw in something that hasn't worked, people see straight through that. And you might get an eye roll here, maybe it's internal. You might get people just switching off as well, because they're like, this person does not understand, like, what is going on? I feel like I'm just getting scammed. This is too good to be true. So we actually had a lot of these barbecue like conversations on weekend chats, where we were like, the way we communicated and updated our friends and family should be the way that we actually take our consumers on this journey. So you can see some of the expressions, but we would love to we have taken our consumers every year on, hey, here's a recap, here's what's happening, here's what's not working. And a lot of people were really surprised, very surprised, from looking at our water bottle exit to looking at how some of the categories we're in, like baby, didn't fire at all, or our expansion, to New Zealand had a lot of hiccups, and we wrote it all. And I think the consumer customer loyalty rates that we talked about a bit earlier, as well as the solace rates, I definitely think they're correlated, where people really buy into an authentic expression and brand, because they understand that no one's perfect, but they'll buy into someone that's willing to be honest and share, hey, starting a business with an end goal, which everyone buys into, is really hard and difficult. So just take me on the journey, update me. And that's sort of been our philosophy. One last thing I'll add is, being authentic doesn't mean oversharing as well. As small businesses, we're not sharing every single sensitive commercial information, and we call that authenticity. No. We, like anyone, we're stewards of the brand, but we also think in most cases, like maybe you alluded to, Sarah, many businesses, organizations are probably staying on that far end of the spectrum, which is, let's not share anything, or let's not share failures, or when we do, let's share it when we have an actual when we've actually seen a turnaround, and then we'll share like the kind of failures as well. And for us, I think something that's won customer loyalty has been, hey, let's take customers on a really authentic journey. We don't know it yet, maybe it's an expression of our youth as well, but we'll love to keep everyone updated. And as a result of that, a lot of people have really resonated deeply, including business owners, of just going, thank you so much for sharing and taking the time out to acknowledge that entrepreneurship is really hard and really tough.
Definitely. And it's interesting because, we talk about the trust epidemic that, people around the world in developed and developing countries, even though those words are no longer actually accurate, but the people are not trusting governments, are not trusting businesses, are not trusting media. And that kind of radical authenticity, I think, is what people are looking for. Is, you know, this
Yeah.
is a business that I really can believe in. And interestingly, I wonder, I imagine that probably made a big difference when, for example, I know in, I think it was 2018, there was a couple of media things in the news saying, oh, you know, Impact hasn't actually, sorry, Thankyou hasn't actually contributed as much as we would expect. You know, they have all these overheads and all these kinds of things. And yet I don't think that that really seemed to impact the perception of the company. Like that really passed very quickly. Maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, I think for us, we're a social enterprise and a business as well. And so I think a lot of people would compare us to a charity. And when the article was published, I think the writer had the exact intention of, oh, hang on a minute, like you're investing so much into this, but you're only getting this like output. Like it should be the other way around, where charity is, hey, here's like limited investment in, let's say, the business, and here's how much gets spent there. But for us, it's a totally different model, and it was actually really surprising to see a lot of consumers that, you know, we don't know about actually educate. So when you see the comment section, especially on LinkedIn as well, they jumped into that for us, and we're like, well, that's phenomenal. We had some really funny comments that was written that I'm sure if you have a read through some of them, it was almost like internally we're like, yes, like they get it, like they understand through it. And we couldn't have responded in that way because it would sound so rude, but we're like, yeah, these guys get it. And so for us, once again, it's being really open and really transparent with our consumers on, okay, how's our business structured? Like, what exactly is a social enterprise? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses as well? And taking our consumers on that journey and being upfront, actually then as an expression of that, there's been such great consumer outpouring whenever there is, you know, critique that we would say is not helpful. And we really believe in critique and feedback as well. But when it comes down to sort of, you know, let's cause controversy for the sake of controversy and pull out facts just totally out of context, our consumers have come in and really batted for us. And that's been phenomenal to see.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that loyalty really comes in handy.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up my questions before I move on to what has been put in the chat box.
Yeah.
What is your one top piece of advice for other businesses looking to improve their contribution this year?
Yeah, I think maybe alluding to the responsible business journey that we've been on. That quote with me, the quote I shared really resonated with me at that time that I first heard it, but it's continuous improvement is always better than delayed perfection. So I think we all have the opportunity to make decisions which are really key and contributory to a betterment of a world that we all want to see and live in. And the challenge for small business owners is, how do we either find people that can help us on this journey, or how do we make margin and time within our busy diaries to look at, okay, this isn't an ad hoc thing that is outside of our normal modus of operandi. No, this is really crucial. And how do we actually take steps to enshrine some of these goals into our overall business strategy? How do we actually, you know, take some time to look at, hey, we've got this amount of resource, what's going to be the biggest bang for buck in actually solving some of these? And that's looking at quantifying and looking at frameworks of, hey, like what is the environmental goal that our organization can actually play a bigger role in? For us, it's 3, it's carbon, it's waste, it's water. And so, yeah, I mean, as a result of the last few years of work, we're a carbon neutral certified organization, inclusive of not just our HQ, but we've also calculated within our products as well. So it's kind of small steps that actually equate to those bigger sort of outcomes as well, and it has to start somewhere. Hey, so it's taken a lot of little small steps to get to this one outcome. We've got a lot more steps to go on that. So yeah, that encouragement is continuous improvement is always better than delayed perfection.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Now we've had quite a few more questions jump in. So I'm going to start with, if you can just quickly answer this one.
Yeah.
The packaging in the personal care range, is how much of that is recycled?
At the moment, we've got a couple of statistics. We have joined the APCO, so the 2025 targets on making sure that we're committing to 50%. At the moment, we've got a range of different products where like plastic free has about 30 to 50% of post-consumer waste, so recycled materials. Our books have a percentage of that, but we'll need to go back, and we're in the process of actually doing our APCO report. Shout out to anyone that is part of the Australian Packaging Covenant at the moment in this room as well. But we'll get a more definitive answer, which we'll be posting up on our website. Every year we have to post our goals. So at the moment, we're in the process of it. I'd love to give you a definitive percentage, but I'm afraid that it might actually be outdated. So keep up to date with our website. We've got a whole bunch of products that do, a whole bunch of products that don't. So we'll actually get you a statistics, an actual stat about that in the coming months when we actually submit our report. I'm pretty sure in April.
Awesome. Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to squeeze in 2 more questions. How do you think consumers' understanding or prioritizing of price, social impact, and environmental benefit is going to change in the next 3 years or so?
Yeah, we think at the moment, like realistically, price is one of the biggest purchase drivers. Undoubtedly, consumer that is looking for, and this is within our own industry, so it's within grocery. So your big retailers, they're looking for a price and values driven proposition. I think though, in the next few years, as a result of even COVID, and as a result of everyone going through a really shared experience, as well as probably the fallout, as we're reading on the news on the inequity maybe of vaccine distribution, and looking at how low-income countries are going to get that last in the next 3, 4, 5 years as compared to more high-income countries. There's going to be more consumer awareness. My optimistic side would be it's going to make us as humanity a lot more compassionate, a lot more empathetic, because we've all gone through, gosh, we know what lockdowns feel like. We look at the news and we see, hospitals being full, beds being full in different countries, thankfully not in Australia, but in different countries as well. And there's this shared consciousness of going, gosh, this experience that we actually know a bit about is happening in other regions, and they're having it a lot worse. In our heads, that means there's more propensity and motivation to actually use, a purchase to fund some of these amazing life-saving work that's happening overseas. That is my optimistic outlook for the next 2 years, on saying that price purchase driver might actually be kind of equated to a social values mission purchase driver as well. And that's not even looking at environmentally as well, where I think Aussies, where there's a lot of stats growing that we're becoming more and more environmentally conscious, which is amazing. And so I would say, yeah, at the moment, price is still the leading purchase driver. Socially, I think it's going to keep growing and influence, and then environmentally as well, it's going to be equating to, my optimistic side is hopefully they'll all be considered equally. Probably my realistic side is price will still be the more pressing driver, but socially will be climbing up as well. So yeah, that's my read on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree with so much of that. Sorry, just trying to let someone into the room quickly. Now, one more question. Where was it? In terms of measuring impact and certifying your impact, did you make an explicit decision not to become a B Corp?
Yeah, for us, we are looking at, and if you've been following Thankyou's journey in the last actually 6 months, one of our growth strategy is looking at a licensed partner deal. Some of the big multinationals, they get a really bad rap, like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, but they're actually leading in the areas of responsible business goals. For us to expand, grow significantly, grow globally, it's been a really tough, business journey to get where we are. We still have a lot of really tough decisions still to go. And for us, if we're to continue on this journey on our own without involving a licensed partner to take, our products overseas and distribute it and sell it, it might take us 20, 30, 40 years to get to the scale that even our partners really need in terms of funding. So yeah, we had this idea in six months ago where we had a licensed partner deal. that we're approaching some of the biggest multinationals, that's in process of being talked about and worked through at the moment, where our entire supply chain as a result of this may actually change. And so from a B Corp perspective, we actually really resonate, and we've had lots of conversations, but our supply chain and the entire, I'll say, upstream value system change will change in the next 6 to 12 months significantly. And so for us, we've sort of gone through the UNGC. I can see a couple of people in the room there as well who've become members. We've set goals from the APCO targets as well, and we've done a few steps on our own, and we would love to kind of revisit a B Corp once this model has fully changed and transition into that licensee model or licensor model as well. A lot of questions that might open up with as well. We've got, once again, all the information about what this deal actually entails. We're not sort of selling out, we're not giving away our entire master brand, but it's just a distribution model, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's see if we can quickly answer the last question, which is, what's been your most impactful implementation partner to date, and how did you come across them?
It's like choosing your favorite child. I've got to be really, I think they all do incredible work. So apologies for the really politically correct answer. But actually there's 17 at the moment that we have. There's a lot of different focus areas, from humanitarian crisis and agencies. So we've got partners working in Syria, partners working in Yemen as well. Very, very, I'll say tough situations, to be an understated way of viewing it, but yeah, very tough situations there. We've got other amazing partners from parts of East Asia to East and West Africa as well, all the way to Central and South America. They're all tackling a bunch of amazing work as well. So looking at things like health, maternal health, things like livelihoods, education, some of the core building blocks, but doing it in a way, once again, that is sustainable, locally involved, but also looking at root causes. And they're so serious about measurement. So fortunately, I can't actually pick a favorite, but you can view them all. We're pretty transparent as well with the types of grants that we give, as well as the type of impact indicators that we give. So I feel like a broken record once again, but our website has it all. You can go as deep as you want to as well on each different partner to find out their particular areas of strength. And we're really excited about what the next 12 months will be for our partners.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, so just quick recap, was there any key resources? You mentioned thankyou.co/sustainability, which I will just pop into the chat right now if anyone wants to check that out. And I'll also copy that resource into the Facebook group. Once you guys join in there, then you can look at all of the resources. Is there anything else that, any other way that people can continue the conversation with you, possibly following you or Thankyou on social media, or any other great resources they could check out?
Yeah, so I'll just, the URL for the sustainability is actually thankyou.co/about/sustainability. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Just if people are finding like there's a 404 that pops up there. But yeah, I would say if you wanted to look at our impact model, our theory of change, the way that we give, some of the lessons there, I know a lot of small business partners really want to give back. We have basically shared all of our learnings. We've wrote a pretty personal letter in the last 6 months about what's really worked and what hasn't. It's a bit of a longer read, but we really want to be honest. So that's there. Everything to do with sustainability is also on that link that you copied. And then I feel like just maybe as a wrap up conversation or wrap up point, like I feel like if we had to redo our journey over again, it sounds a bit crazy, but we wouldn't have swapped some of the obstacles. We've actually seen obstacles, especially within just starting a business, just being commercially profitable. Like that one sort of desire for us has been really challenging and really tough, but it's through those really tough, it sounds really cliche, but I can think of like 7, 8 different case studies where those obstacles of, having really low resources has actually propelled us to innovate and do things which have been really different within the FMCG industry, but it's got far above results that we could even have hoped for as well. So like looking at these obstacles as almost opportunities to innovate has been our mantra, which has been, yeah, resource constraints. Like for us, it's always been resource constraints on time and money, but how do we actually then, you know, learn from them and say, cool, if it's time, maybe we need to focus on better things. If it's money, maybe there's a way that we can get the same outcomes. For example, advertising, marketing, that, you know, other competitors spend millions of dollars. Maybe we can have the same outcome if we do it a bit differently as well. And so there's so much to unpack. I think there's a book that our co-founder has written as well. It's called Chapter 1. You can also check it out on our website, but we've listed a lot of the counterintuitive ways that we've really thought about business, and business, especially with starting up with about $500 between our co-founders. So it's not like we were pumped full of, you know, your tech companies like IPOs and stuff like that. We started with that, and I mean, to date we haven't got any rounds of investors. Sorry.
4 uni students.
Yeah, well, some of us were uni students, some of us weren't. So there you go.
Amazing. All right, thank you so much for your time, Pete, and thank you to everyone else who's joined us. Please join in the Facebook group to continue the conversation, and yeah, check out the links that we posted in here to learn more about Thankyou and to follow what's going on there.
Cool. Thanks everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Cheers.